In episode number 433 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Wonder Woman's 1984's 4K release.
We also have the future release of Godzilla vs. Kong.
And our comic book highlight this week is Batman Catwoman #1.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am your Emperor Palp, Kelly.
And I am Glasses Daniel.
Just glasses?
Just glasses.
Like wearing glasses?
Or actual drinking glasses. That's what I was thinking. I've got a collection of those. I no longer wear glasses, so I'm going to go with tumblers and mugs. Those are all glasses.
For those of you joining us for the very first time, the way we format the show is first we go over some news. We jump into our Patreon shoutouts, which are our thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible. We have our comic book highlight, and we round it out with the Broquette block, which is what Daniel and I have been up to this week.
Not a ton of news this week, but still plenty to discuss on your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, which Palpa Kelly forgot to mention, so I'm going to go ahead and correct that a little bit because I'm
sorry.
Proud of that forever. This week, actor Mads Mikkelsen from Casino Royale, he played the main villain, talked to Entertainment Weekly about taking over the role of Grindelwald after Johnny Depp had to resign.
He said, quote, "This is the tricky part. We're still working on it. There has to be a bridge between what Johnny did and what I'm going to do. And at the same time, I also have to make it my own. But also, we have to find a few links to the previous version of the character and some bridges so that it doesn't completely detach from what he's already masterfully achieved," end quote.
Currently, Fantastic Beasts 3 is set to release on July 14th, 2022. Looks like still plenty of time to make those tweaks and changes. It's had a bit of, as the article was saying on Bleeding Cool, had a bit of a rocky history with the first one doing pretty well and being well received from fans. And then the sequel, much like King of the Monsters, actually, which we're going to talk about, it underperformed at the box office and wasn't as well received by Harry Potter fans, including myself. But I also haven't been too crazy about this new 5-6 films that they're planning so far. These first two I've been like, they've been all right. So with them going in and retooling some of the plot points for number 3, and on top of that having the added work of needing to write out his version of Johnny Depp, because from his quote here, it sounds like, as he said, they're finding a bridge and a gap between the two characters, so it's not a detachment completely. That tells me that they're writing into the story why he changed his appearance, and in the world of magic, you can easily, in some form, explain that away.
Absolutely. And I think in this case, it's kind of the right direction to go. I mean, you're not just going to change the actor completely and say, oh, yep, this is normal.
And when Mads was asked about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, no longer Mara, we don't want her to be Mara in Aquaman 2. He did keep it very neutral in saying that he wishes the best for both of them and that he hopes that they get back on the saddle. That's all you can say if you're diving into this role, especially when it's this early on. You're not going to take any side on anyone. You just wish the best for all. And I think he kept it pretty PR friendly.
On that same line, and again, I'm just looking at headlines, right? I rarely click on articles unless it's like, look at these 40 plus crazy things. I don't know why I click on those. I shouldn't. But I saw that the petition to get Amber Heard away from being Mara is up to like 2 million signatures now. And I also saw that Johnny Depp is in talk with his boy Tim Burton to play some dude from the Addams Family. So he's going to get some work eventually, as we knew he would.
If that is true, I applaud Tim Burton, who is his longtime friend and collaborator for a long time, many, many years, of taking him onto this project, which it sounds like, yes, Tim Burton's also kind of fallen off on his success. I've said in the past that I think his best films are behind him. But he can carry on Johnny Depp and bring him on to his next project, which right now it seems like he'd be helping Johnny more than the other way around. And with some of these, I don't know if you saw the cologne company that actually
Dior?
retained. Yeah, they retained Johnny Depp's contract and had him on there, so all of Johnny's fans and anyone that is on his side went out and supported this cologne and bought it up to tell them, like, hey, we want you to continue supporting Johnny.
Those were the only sales that they got. So that's fine.
Is it a bad cologne?
I don't know. It's expensive. I'm pretty sure it's expensive.
Well, that means it's good.
I think it was Dior. I don't remember the brand, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it was. It was the one with, who was it? Kristen Stewart, who was like breaking out of things.
Yes, I know what you're talking about with the song.
Yeah.
Running, running.
I think it's the same company. I may just be mashing them together. But when you were talking about Tim Burton and how they're friends, it kind of made me think of like Johnny went to him and be like, Tim, this happened. And he's like, oh, let's just make another movie, Johnny. We're just going to make another movie. It'll be fine. And he's making this just for Johnny.
I hope so. I really hope so. So it's the Addams Family is what they're doing next. Mm-hmm. Do you know if that's going to be stop motion or live action or any of that?
I don't know. I didn't click on the article. It just said that supposedly Johnny's in talks to play, I guess, the I don't even know who.
Gomez Addams?
Yeah, that sounds correct. Is that the dad?
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of the Addams Family.
That's the only one that I can imagine him playing. And he can sort of pull that off anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, Lurch is too tall, and you got the Uncle Fester. I guess he could play him, but I think he would go for Gomez. At least that's what I believe. That's
I'm pretty sure
who he
Gomez.
Looks most like.
It definitely wasn't the other two. Maybe he's playing the lady. I don't know.
Yeah, we could all be wrong. 2020. As I had said earlier, another movie with a bit of a rocky history as it continues going here. According to Deadline, Legendary's Godzilla vs. Kong is in talks to release on HBO Max.
THR reported that Netflix made a $200 million offer for the film, but Warner Media wants to instead feature it on HBO Max.
A Warner Brothers spokesperson insisted, however, quote, "We plan to release Godzilla vs. Kong theatrically next year as scheduled," and quote, that date being May 21st, 2021, which is right before Memorial Day weekend.
Is this another film where you'd want to see it both on HBO and in the theater when it released?
I think they're going to look at what kind of numbers Wonder Woman 1984 brings us in a few weeks, and from there they're going to decide all kinds of slate of films on doing either a dual release, or if it ends up blowing everything away with the subscriptions, then they might just make it an HBO Max exclusive.
I just wrote their commercials for these dual releases.
Let's hear it.
It's time to duel, duel. And then they got to play some like Yu-Gi-Oh music, but then he's...
Just break all kinds of...
HBO's like, no, Kelli, no. Just no.
They're like, it's all right, Kelli.
I would be totally on board. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see it in both places.
Well, then you'd really be encouraging stealing. There'd be a lot of pirating for Godzilla vs. Kong.
What, if I saw it in both on HBO and on the big screen?
No, if you made it Yu-Gi-Oh themed. Yu-Gi-Oh players are notorious for being thieves and just being terrible players.
Well, then we work with local law enforcement. We set it up to catch them.
Now it's getting really complex.
We're gonna bring in Chris Hansen, and it's gonna be to catch a Yu-Gi-Oh pirate.
they're pedos as well.
I never said pedos. I said Yu-Gi-Oh pirate. I didn't say Yu-Gi-Oh pedos.
Well, if you tie Smash Brothers into it somehow, then you could really legitimately bring in Chris Hansen.
What's with Smash? What do you do with Smash Brothers?
Well, that's a whole another thing. But the competitive Smash scene, apparently there are instances of people sleeping with underage people that are also at the events and tournaments. So yeah, that's all become a very toxic thing.
What? When did this happen? Where have I been?
It's been over the last year, and this is why Nintendo pretty much... they decided no longer to support officially any of these major tournaments, and they didn't cite that reason specifically, but that's the fucking reason.
That's the reason. What reason did they cite?
I don't know, something about the pandemic or players or streaming rights. I don't know.
Nintendo. All right, we see you.
They might have not even said anything. They just said, "Nah, we're good."
Nah. Hashtag done.
Godzilla and Kong Skull Island earned $524 million and $566 million respectively, but King of the Monsters unfortunately took in $386 million.
So this is what you're talking about earlier with that sequel not really doing quite as well, underperforming with the fans. I really enjoyed both of these movies, but I will say, and some things we noted after we saw this, King of the Monsters came out probably a little too long after Godzilla, the first one, to really keep people hyped. And then I also don't think they really advertised it enough. I remember seeing one or two trailers And we were also looking for them, right? It wasn't like it was blown up all over my Facebook. A lot of people weren't sharing it. So yeah, all those things contributed to, how this underperformed, but still a great movie.
It is. It really is a good movie. And I remember you and I were hyping it up, talking about it on the podcast. And at the end, we enjoyed the monster fights that were on there. Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan, all of these were on the big screen, kicking ass. There was plenty of fighting. I know a lot of people complained that there wasn't enough monster fighting, but that, the last one didn't have enough either, and it was too dark. But this one made it all out. You can see all the fighting, but it wasn't enough. It was just a mess as far as what people's opinion was on King of the Monsters, but I thought it was great. We got what we paid for. I think we said it, and I still stand by it, that Godzilla, the Bryan Cranston one, I think it's 2014's, is a better film, but this is Godzilla King of the Monsters is a better Godzilla movie.
My favorite part of that whole movie was when the guy takes his little atomic bomb and he's going to save his Godzilla man, and he's like, "I love you, Godzilla."
That's pretty much. I wanted him to kiss him, like just a little kiss.
And then Godzilla has to crack his eyes open, and then.
I like how you're cool with that, but not Mothra and Godzilla.
No.
Same argument. You said different species.
No, because you're trying to point out that Godzilla and Mothra mutually want to be together. Yeah. Godzilla doesn't want to be with this guy. This guy's just creepy.
I see.
Yeah.
So it makes it funny.
Right. That's why Godzilla cracks his eyes open, because he's like, oh, maybe I don't want to be saved.
He wonders later, like, what was up with that guy? Like, I'm glad I'm super powered and juiced, but Jesus.
Did he have to kiss me to play? It's the only way, Godzilla.
Was it the bomb or was it the kiss? He's confused.
Confused for the rest of his life. Yeah, see, that's the difference. It's funny that way. When it's Godzilla and Mothra, it's not
It's
funny.
just romantic.
No,
Yeah,
it's
you're
not.
right.
It's not romantic at all. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. It's like if you put Venomoth and a Kangaskhan together, they would not produce babies.
I'm curious if if you take them to the breeder, how they never match. You can actually make different Pokemon breed. It doesn't have to be the same ones.
No, I know that, but they have to be the same quote unquote type.
Right.
Yeah, and those two would not go together.
They're both Earth types. That's the whole thing.
No.
She's the queen of the monsters. He's the king.
No.
They say it in the movie.
No, they don't.
They do.
No, they don't.
Well, let's talk about Netflix wanting to put in $200 million, which is a good chunk of the film's budget. And Warner Media still said, no, we'll go ahead and go with HBO Max instead, which is one of their own platforms. So they turned down money from a different company and instead are banking on this being a huge draw for HBO Max, even though they're saying right now they plan on still releasing it in theaters. And I, for one, want to see the big monsters once again fight on the big screen. I am not for seeing this on HBO Max first. This is a film that I will see in theaters, but what do you think about them turning down and having that confidence in their own streaming?
I think part of it is confidence in their streaming, but I think the other part of it is, what did Netflix sneak into that contract when they were trying to buy it? They didn't just go to them and say, here's $200 million, let us stream your movie, right? There had to have been something else in there. Maybe they requested rights for years, or maybe, there was something where Warner Brothers would have lost a portion of that movie or the rights to that movie, or something else in there, right? I don't think it was simply, here's $200 million for us to stream your movie.
No, I think you're right. And whether it's merchandise percentages or whether it's a branding thing of, how they would make it a Netflix original, that could have been one of the big things. And at that point, Warner Media looks at it as Netflix getting the credit for making the film and not so much Warner Brothers, or in this case, where they could make this an HBO Max original or exclusive.
You know what they would do is merge the Netflix noise with the Godzilla roar, and it would be like, dun dun roar! It'd be perfect.
Are you on the same camp? Are you wanting to see this on the big screen over streaming it?
I want to see both. I mean, I do very much want to see it on the big screen. If it's a situation where we don't have the opportunity to safely go to the big screen and it comes on HBO, I would be okay seeing it on HBO first. But ultimately, with monsters of this size, you want to see it on a giant ass screen. And so, yes, at whatever point we can, even if I've already seen it once, unless it is a total crap show, which it won't be, I would love to see it on the big screen.
based on how they originally wanted 2 more films in this series, and they had delayed this one and had done some script retooling, and it sounds like this is the final one in the MonsterVerse that they've been working on. Are you ready to kind of say goodbye to this American reboot of Godzilla?
I don't think it's the end. We're going to see if Godzilla's going to get rebooted for like the rest of my life.
Well, I'm saying in this continuity.
I would love if they would continue and have more, just like I wanted some more. What was that big robot movie with the Jägermeisters and
Pacific Rim?
Yes, I would have loved more Pacific Rim, even though it was not as good as Godzilla is going to be. I don't a franchise that I love. I don't think I'm ever ready to say goodbye to it. They could continue it forever, and I will continue watching it, as long as I enjoy the films, even if they aren't really that good. So it's unfortunate that fans weren't on board with this more, because I definitely would have loved to see those other 2 movies that come after that. But, Godzilla's going to beat King Kong, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Can't wait for you to see this next year. All right. One of the last bits of news this week, continuing on more HBO Max, and this time it's an upgrade to the service.
Warner Brothers has announced that Wonder Woman 1984 will stream in 4K and will also support Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, and HDR10.
Director @Patty Jenkins said, quote, on Twitter, "Excited to announce that Wonder Woman 84 will be the first film on HBO Max available in 4K Ultra HD, HDR10, Dolby Vision, and Dolby Atmos. Can't wait. In theaters on December 25th and exclusively streaming in the US on HBO Max. Please find the biggest and highest quality screen you can," end quote.
Reading between the lines, go see this in theaters,
yes.
Not necessarily on your television.
This is the second tweet where she has capitalized "in theaters," and in the past she's been extremely vocal about supporting theaters. So this sounds like HBO Warner telling her, please tweet out about, it's part of their contract where they have to tweet out these things. And they said, make sure to tweet out to support the movie on HBO Max and in theaters. And she's like, all right, well, I will. But she wants people to see it on the big screen.
Well, if that's what it was filmed for, right? That's definitely the way that we should go and be digesting this movie. And beyond that, getting to support your local theaters, as we've said many times, will help support the movie industry as well. If you see a movie made for streaming versus one made for the big screen, 2 very different films. I mean, just the way it's handled and all those different kind of things. They're different mediums, right? So you're going to film them differently. So definitely, like we've said before, we will be supporting it in theaters as soon as we can get there. We will see this movie. Also, we will watch it on HBO Max. We will just support it wherever we can because we're very excited for this.
HBO Max stated that it will, quote, expand these capabilities to further films and TV series, as well as adding support for additional services and devices throughout 2021, end quote.
I mean, this is why it's a superior streaming service.
Getting that 4K, which is great. I did not know it wasn't already streaming in 4K because I was enjoying the content so much that I was like, oh shit, this isn't in 4K? You mean this could be even more I can't imagine that. And that I'm going to find out this December or at the end of this month.
I want HBO to be like, we are now streaming in 4K and write a book about it. Just pull a Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, you got to explain that Wiseau joke.
Oh my God, it was amazing. So back when the Nostalgia Critic did that review on The Room, we said we have to write The Room or watch The Room. And it is very much probably the worst movie I've ever seen. It was very entertaining. We got a lot out of it. There's a lot of jokes, but just those are 2 hours I will never get back from my life. It just felt very empty. But we were watching, after that, a interview with Tommy Wiseau, who wrote, directed, starred, and many other things for the movie. And he was like, I recorded in, was it HD and...
HD high definition.
Yes, HD high definition and 9mm camera. And write a book about it. Like, he was talking about how he was going to do these things and then write a book about it after.
The real story behind it is he did not know the difference between the 2 cameras when he was renting them, so he just rented both. And I'm assuming, according to him, he knows how to use both, and that he was going to write a book about the difference between the two. So as he was doing the project, I'm sure he figured out, oh, okay, that's the difference between these. But that's the whole thing, is he doubled down on his bluff or whatever of reasoning on why he was spending all this money. We still don't really know how he got all that money to make the film and to keep a billboard up for, I think, a year or two.
What?
Promoting the movie.
This wild, this man, he just gets like cooler every time we learn about him. I don't know where he is. He's just kind of disappeared again. But yeah, in this interview, you could very much tell that he just kind of tacked that on to the end, because he pauses and he's like, yes, I recorded with these, both two cameras, and I'll tell somebody about it someday. And write a book about it. Like, it's like a 5-second pause.
He decided right then and there, like, yeah, no, I'm going to write a book too.
He has never written a book about it. But that's what I feel like HBO did with this.
And if you two are going to sign up for HBO Max this month to watch Wonder Woman 1984, or you already have, as a thank you to AT&T for giving us the Snyder Cut next year, we have our monthly highlights.
This is not the full list of what is available. You can go on Google and search. This is just what pertains to us, what we're excited to see, and what we're excited to talk about. So the first one is Annabelle. Hell no.
It's the origin film, Annabelle creation from the universe of James Wan. And those Conjuring verse movies are all really, it's amazing how successful they are. I am kind of surprised, because I blinked and suddenly there were 4 or 5 more films, and they all did extremely well.
Those are a big negative for me. Thank you. I do not watch spooky things. I do not like to think about spooky things, because I will cry and I will not sleep well.
Well, the opposite of spooky is laughter, and we have the Carbonaro effect also joining, which is essentially a magic show, but you get to see people's wild reactions as he reveals this crazy living thing that was in their pencil.
Is that the show that it's called Germs? Is that the show that we used to watch all the time? Oh, okay. The Marinara effect.
It was on True TV.
Oh, yeah, I remember. And I always confused him with John Mulaney, because they look exactly the same. Okay,
they're pretty much the same fucking guy. There's no way they're not.
Listen, it's a great show if you just want something to put on and want to be a little entertained.
Some comic book adaptations. We have The Crow starring Brandon Lee, The Crow City of Angels, and The Crow Wicked Prayer. That one starred Edward Furlong, and it was his first film after his drug recovery and addiction. And this was supposed to be the film. I was following it very closely, and this was the film that was going to bring him back and get him a lot more work. And it ended up going, I think, straight to video, straight to DVD, and it might have had like a very limited theatrical release, but it ended up being a movie. It didn't do well. It was not a good one. And I read the book that it was based on, Wicked Prayer, and it did deviate from it. So I was a little disappointed as a fan of the book. But The First Crow is still the best one. They're going to do a remake of it. They almost did with Jason Momoa starring in it. And that never went through, unfortunately. But if you want to watch all three, again, based on James O'Barr's comic books, they are on HBO Max.
I remember you were like obsessed with the first one when we first met and started going out.
Aside from Tim Burton's Batman, which kind of had a similar aesthetic, I hadn't seen anything like it. The soundtrack was great. The acting was awesome. And there was also the story behind it of this being Brandon Lee's final film. He died while making it, and there were some scenes that aren't him, and they had to use a double, and you can kind of see where they use this cookie cutter effect on his face. And there was a lot to that first movie, which really caught my attention.
Wasn't it also filmed in reverse? So then like his acting starts out really good and it gets slowly worse as the film goes on?
It's like he finds his character, and it makes more sense because at the end, like you were mentioning, he doesn't play the same character as he does near the beginning of the film, which is like fully confident. He knows the character he's in. And then by the end of it, it's a much softer take. So yeah, that's one thing that they did film it backwards.
Well, it will be on HBO this month if you want to watch it, and you can have discussions with the Brokettes about it.
One that was huge in the, I want to say late 90s. I don't think it was in the 2000s. I could be wrong, though. But starring Jor-El and Joker himself, we have Gladiator.
I have not seen this movie, but everybody always talked about it when it first came out. Still haven't seen it. I probably should. Is it good?
I remember liking it a lot, yeah.
Okay. We'll have to add it to the list. We also have The Last Samurai, another movie that I have not seen.
Starring Tom Cruise, and that's another one that I also remember enjoying very much, and I want to go back and revisit it.
This one I have seen, The Shawshank Redemption.
Believe it or not, I've never seen it all the way through.
Really? It's been a very long time since I have seen it. So maybe another one that we need to go back and watch.
It's considered by many to be one of the best films of all time, and I do feel ashamed that I haven't seen it, but now's my chance.
You also haven't seen The Wizard of Oz the whole way through.
That's all right.
And until recently, you hadn't seen Rudolph the whole way through.
No, hadn't seen it. No, that wasn't. I don't know if we had like Christmas films that we didn't have that tradition. I think we just. I mean, I saw Batman Returns, Night Before Christmas. I don't know if those count.
Not quite the same.
Another one coming to HBO Max is Spawn, the live-action film. So now you can have the animated series, which was a more hands-on take on the character. And I'm pretty sure Todd McFarlane was pretty heavily involved in that animated series. But the live-action film, I, as a kid, thought it was cool. Like, I thought the character design was awesome. I always wanted Spawn comics, but I wasn't allowed to get those. But the movie was PG-13 from what I remember, and I watched it, and I used to really like it.
Never seen this. I had friends who were, like, obsessed with Spawn. I don't see the appeal. I don't know.
We had talked about it earlier. Wonder Woman 1984 coming on December 25th, Christmas Day in 4K.
So ready.
And the last one we're highlighting is Independence Day. Fuck yes.
Leo got to see this for the first time. Oh, he's watched Independence Day 2. And every time the aliens, he was like, uh-oh. Like, he was very invested in this. He stopped watching Shaun the Sheep to watch Independence Day 2.
He wasn't spooked by the aliens?
No, he was totally chill. But, like, he comprehended everything that was going on. So, yeah, he was very concerned when that alien queen popped out and they were trying to run away and the music was intense. And he was like, uh-oh, uh-oh. Yeah, and then he's like yelling at the TV that the alien was coming for them. It was really cute.
I still love the first one. It's always a great time to watch Independence Day. There's so much about that movie that is amazing. I'm reminded of Star Fox 64 when I watch it too, because the game pretty much lifted a scene from Independence Day and put it into the game. It was influenced by Independence Day, Star Wars, and there's literally a level where you have to destroy a ship that has the thing that comes down, and even if you fail, then the explosion is exactly the same as like when the base gets destroyed or when the building gets destroyed in the film, and they put that right in the game. So those two go hand in hand.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. Now I know why you like it so much, just because of Star Fox.
That's it. Not Jeff Goldblum.
Nope. Not Will Smith being awesome.
Special effects.
Yeah. Not
Welcome
the president.
To Earth. His human hand punching the alien and knocking him out.
Which we later learn that's very hard armor.
Right.
So, yeah.
But there you have it. As we mentioned, a little bit of a lighter news week. We're going to have more during the Brocat block. But first, let's head into our Patreon shoutouts of the week.
These are our thank yous to everyone who helps make the show possible. The first one goes out to Bobby on Twitter at Cuban Slim.
Bobby's been streaming Spider-Man Miles Morales from his PS5. Links out on our Discord every time he goes live. On our main Discord lounge, you will see his go up. You can click on the link and interact as he plays live. And it's truly true where the PS5 has no loading times, neither does the new Xbox Series X, and that blows me away, and I don't plan on getting a PS5 or next-gen console anytime soon, but just seeing them seamlessly go from area to area and in places where there would normally be loading screens. When I'm playing Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered right now, and I get those loading screens, I do wonder, like, does the PS5 have any loading at all, or does it just start?
Do you sit there and you're like, oh man, I'm a peasant?
Yeah, like I'm wasting my time now. Back in my day, there used to be loading. That's going to be a thing that people tell their kids.
Back in my day, it didn't auto-save. You used to have to actually go and save, and then sometimes you'd run out of batteries and you forgot to save, and oh shit, you're 2 hours behind now.
Well, you and I go even further back where back in our day, there truly was no loading. Like on the NES or the Sega Genesis or arcades, there wasn't any loading at all.
But the games were also much shorter and much more difficult, and you also didn't save, so if you died, you started from the beginning.
That was your replayability right there.
Yeah.
Next shout out this week goes out to John on Instagram at Johnny2Chips.
Follow his Instagram for Silver Age comic showcases.
He's got a very impressive statue, comic book, collectible collection, and he likes to showcase it on his Instagram.
And our final shout out this week goes out to Neil on Twitter at inmats68 or on Instagram at inmats.photography.
Neil posted images of Veterans Day flags and honorary displays that he spotted while driving around. So him as a photographer putting up and sharing these images, it really I think he really highlighted well the somber tone on that day and also the remembrance of these people because you do see their names, you see the flags, you see the labels. So we don't have anything like that where we live. So it was really cool to scroll through all of those.
But thank you so much, Neil, John, and Bobby for your Patreon support.
If you too would like your shout out, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimBroke. There's also a link in the description of today's episode. And for as little as $1 a month, you too can get your shout out and you help support the show for Papa Kelly and I.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do for us is word of mouth. We just passed Black Friday. We have the holidays coming up. People are getting new devices, and why not add another app to that device?
If you search The Reasons I'm Broke on the Google Play Store or on the Apple Shop, whatever they call it on your iDevices, I don't own any, so I don't know what that is. But if you search The Reasons I'm Broke, you will find our app on there. And for each episode that you listen or download to, there is an exclusive wallpaper just for that episode.
Is it ever just my face like, ee?
Nope, still not your face.
Still waiting.
Something else you've been waiting for. We should have gotten this book many months ago, but it is finally here, as voted on by the Brocat Core, our comic book highlight of the week.
This book can take however long it needs to get here. We finally have Batman Catwoman number 1 of 12. This is written by Tom King with art by Clayman, and the colorist is Tomeo Mori.
Some may say this poll was fraudulent, perhaps, because on Twitter it did show up a tie, but you had not placed your vote yet.
Yeah.
When it did display a tie, Jared suggested that I review Batman Catwoman number 1 and that you review the other tie option, which is Sonic the Hedgehog. And I told him I'd run it by you, so I'm doing that now. I'm just doing as I heard.
And what did I tell you when you ran it by me the first time?
That you're not about that.
I said no. Nope. I mean, Sonic was great. I loved it so much.
What's funny is last week you had called it Tails Miles Per Hour, which was hilarious. Did you know that that's what the name is based on?
Yes, I did know that.
Okay.
But it's
so you are
like
a super fan.
No, but his name is Miles Per Hour. Like, it's
right.
Literally miles per hour.
Yeah. I just don't know if that was another accidental, like, deep cuts thing, like the Sonic the Hedgehog originally being a rabbit. So I don't know if that was like you had accidentally done that too, which would have been hilarious.
No, that one I did. Well, I didn't know officially. I inferred it. I figured that that's what it was at a very young age of whenever I was playing Adventure Battle 2. However, I am so glad that Batman Catwoman won instead of Sonic because I do get to be the deciding vote. I think I let the Brokeheads vote all day. And when there's a tie, I just get to be the deciding vote. That's what it is.
Well, this maxi series was going to be half done, I think, by Clayman, 6 issues, and then 6 issues by someone else. And Clayman decided that he wanted to do all 12 issues himself. So that's when they decided to push the book back. I know Tom King had the option of finishing Batman up to issue number 100, but they decided to start working on Batman Catwoman instead. And we finally have it. Number 1 is out. This is the one that puts the Phantasm into official DC continuity. We are gonna discuss spoilers in here because there are some pretty big beats in the issue. If you haven't read it yet, make sure to fast forward. That's your warning right now. But what were your thoughts on this first issue?
I don't know what I expected from this book, but it definitely wasn't what we got. But I felt like what we got was so amazing and so much more impactful. And as always, jumping into the future with these characters, it broke my heart by the end of it. It was broken. But definitely set up the stage for a really, I guess, deep and heartfelt story, especially who Selina was talking to when she was having that conversation at the end and saying, this wasn't just for Bruce, it's for what you did to Andrea. So something crazy is going to go down there too. And it's nice to see that Selina And I'm sure there'll be some jealousy in there somewhere. But for the most part, it somehow finds a friendship with Andrea and, seeks out that revenge for her as well.
There was a part here that I disagreed with on it, and it sounds like Mask of the Phantasm as it went, because they talk about the ending with them possibly burning up in the, not amusement park, but it was like that Future World Showcase.
Yeah.
And that's a part of, apparently that all happened. And exactly for the most part, like we saw in the animated film. And at one point, I guess Andrea has a son, moved on and had a kid, and we don't know who the father is yet. And that's the one part that, much like Bruce, I don't think she would have just seeked out to start a family, especially with the way that one ended, and especially with what we saw in Batman Beyond, where she continued being the Phantasm in that episode, Amanda Waller.
Yes, but if we're going to go, on a timeline, the episode with Amanda Waller, Terry McGinnis is much farther in the future. So she could have potentially, these things still could have happened, and she could have turned into that phantasm, into that person later still.
I do want to know who the father is, and if she in fact did fall for someone else and start a family, or if there was a whole different story behind it.
I think it's the Joker.
That would be crazy. You really think that's what it might be?
I think that's why the Joker murdered the kid, because I think it's his son. That's why the Joker was looking for him and talking to Selina. And that's what I think.
That's going to really fuck with me too. He better do this really well, because the idea I don't like, but we'll see how the story unfolds. That's all just a guess right now. Drawn beautifully by Clayman, no matter what I feel about him as an interviewer or how he interacts at panels and conventions. His art is amazing. And this is also the issue in which they debuted Catwoman's new costume, different from the one we saw in Rebirth. I think it was purposefully done so that it matches Bruce's, because it seems like there's complement one another. And I think it's a reflection of them both being a couple, with the Joker. The Joker actually mentions that he doesn't think that's Selina, that it's not her to be with Batman.
It is a book that I would really like to go back and read again, because I think there was a lot of jumping throughout time within it. We see a few panels, like, for instance, there's a panel where Bruce is telling Andrea Alfred's not alive anymore. And then we see two panels with Alfred, Alfred walking in on him and Selina. I'm like, right. Alfred, what? Alfred, get out of here. What are you doing?
Well, he keeps walking in on them kissing. Remember in the movie? I think that was continuing the joke.
There's a reference to that. One thing that I did really enjoy is the Sewer King. Yes. He finally showed up, and I was
he is now also continuity.
I know.
Finally. Jesus.
But just going back to show that Tom King really enjoys the animated series and pulling things from there.
And Selina Kyle was one of the kids, apparently.
Yes.
That's what they were saying.
That was so cool, because he's like, no, I fucking saved you. And she's like fighting all his alligators named Lyle and Kyle and Crocodile. And
do we see them get away from the Sewer King? It sounds like we're going to get that resolution in the... Oh, no, he just got information from him. And
right.
That was it.
So she catches another kid, and she's like, I got information from a very bloody Sewer King.
That's right.
So they did eventually get that information. But the thing that I really want to discuss, and I thought was really probably my favorite part, is Selina in the future. She's older. She's talking to this older gentleman. And then you find out she's going, I was with Bruce when he died. And, I told him I loved him. And then that was it. And the old man goes, okay, well, what's next? And she goes, what's next? I'm going to kill you because he's finally gone. So, and it turns out he's the Joker, right? Ooh, spoiler. But what did you think of that moment? Was that because I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
I really want to know what he did to Bruce and Andrea that it has her saying he can no longer stop me. He's dead. And I'm going to kill you. And I don't know if she has killed in between all of this, or if she stopped all of that when she was with Bruce. I don't know. And there's a lot of questions that I have, obviously, and whether or not it's justified, I guess we're going to find out by issue 12. That panel, or that last page of Andrea Belmont in grief dug up the Phantasm costume again. This is obviously she's a she wanted this son. This wasn't a kid that she did not want or anything. She's grieving for her son, for this kid. And I think that's what's bringing her back to that Phantasm. And much like she was broken when she had to break up with Bruce and the Phantasm, she's once again broken at the end of, or during this issue. And she's going to find out who killed her son.
I mean, she already knows it's the Joker.
Most likely,
He
yeah.
had on a spooky Joker face.
Right.
We all know. I really look forward to what Tom King will do with these characters. I hope he recognizes that a woman's grief over losing a child would be very different than the grief over losing a love, right? A life that you had built, because your child becomes your life.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be, if he plays it as I hope he does, watching her fall into that and her eventual coming out of that will be a wonderful ride, a very emotional ride. And especially me, right? Being a mom, I'm like, oh my God, this kid, poor Andrea. Like, give her whatever she wants, except for Bruce. Because Bruce is Selena's.
I like how you flip-flop on that one. It used to be that Andrea was number one, or top. Yeah, we agreed on that one, and no longer the case
anymore.
with you.
No, not happening.
It's another example of, like, this is where I get offended at the Joker fucking killed that kid. But then it's like one of those things where the Joker has no limits or bounds on offending anything or anyone. He will literally do anything. The only thing that we know, and he could have been joking at that time, is during that team up with the Red Skull, he's like, look, I'm still an American. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not going to support you. Like, he still has some kind of boundaries according to that issue. But in this case, I don't know why he killed that kid. If it was in fact the Joker, again, we don't really know for sure 100%, but I'm on the camp of, look, Selena can kill him. I'm okay with this.
Well, and I think regardless, even if it wasn't from this particular instance, I think as soon as Bruce was gone, Selena would go after those villains that she probably felt Bruce should have killed a long time ago and didn't, and out of respect for him, didn't do those things. But once he's gone, she doesn't have that moral compass, right? That person stopping her anymore. So she's like, well, I'll probably go soon too. Let me just off these guys and then we'll be even.
What do you think about that pseudo friendship between Catwoman and the Joker? You know, she's with Batman right now. That's something that Joker probably does not want, but can still get along with Batman's worst enemy.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And I hope he dives more into that and kind of develops why that happened. You know, I kind of get the feeling that all the villains in Gotham have at some point teamed up with each other and at some point form some kind of friendship. And it's not a bad thing, even though she's with Batman and this is in the very early stages of her being with Batman, but to keep those kind of relationships for information, right? To find out what's really going on. And probably some, you know, I have some people that I don't get along in a working perspective, but I get along with outside of a working perspective. And why would we think it'd be any different for supervillains in Gotham?
Last thing I will say about this first issue is, you mentioned the time jump. Tom King is telling, once again, that story of his definitive, this is where, in my mind, Batman's story ends. But it continues with Catwoman, once, like you said, going after the Joker. So Tom's not finished. I thought it was over when they had given us that annual of Batman passes away from cancer, and that's the end. And she then gets that resolution with her daughter, their daughter. And then it's like, all right, and now we're getting this. So it's just like, all right, how much further can we go with this? Is this going to be it for Tom's future Batman? We're
going all the way to the scraggly Sinestro finger. Nobody will ever be able to write the ending because Tom King's already written it.
Probably. He's going to pull a Jeff Johns.
Yep, it'll be perfect.
I will say overall, I wasn't blown away by this first issue, but I really did enjoy it.
I was blown away. I thought it was great. It was, like I said, I had no expectations and it far surpassed all my expectations. But very good if you enjoy Batman Catwoman. There was some romance in there. There was some working together. They were just being awesome.
So thank you once again for voting in on the poll. It goes up every Wednesday morning on Twitter, right underneath our new Comic Book Day post, which goes up around 8 a.m. on Eastern Time.
Thank you for not voting for Sonic this week. I'm glad Batman Catwoman won.
I feel like I do have to be fair a little bit, though. I did read Sonic the Hedgehog. Very brief thoughts on it. Shadow the Hedgehog does show back up, and there's a little bit more action here. We figure out who the hooded figure is. A lot of people were saying, it's Sally. They're going to put her finally in this from the Archie comics. And people just really want the fucking Freedom Fighters in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. But I will tell you for sure that is not Sally, and we are not going to get the Freedom Fighters anytime soon. They keep introducing these brand new characters that belong in the IDW universe, and I'm totally okay with it. A lot of them have been very solid, just like Tangle and Whisper. And we just had the puppet character that debuted last month in the last issue, and it's another solid character too. So let's keep that train going and expanding the world of Sonic the Hedgehog. So if you've been enjoying this new run, this new creative team, then this is no exception. It's still a pretty good issue.
But with that, we can move into our last segment. That's the Broquette Block. What happened with Daniel and I this week?
Got through another Black Friday, Papa Kelly.
Done and done. Another one for the books.
Should we cover Thanksgiving first?
Sure, let's do that.
So we ended up going to your parents' in the morning / early afternoon, where I got to chase little Leo around.
Yeah.
He was running around. He tuckered me out. I was running on 3 hours of sleep that day already. And then on top of that, I was exhausted by the time we went over to my parents' in the afternoon and night. So we got double portions of Thanksgiving food. And
we sure did.
Leo got to see all the family.
He did really appreciate it. Very, very energetic little boy right now, but enjoyed being around all those people running around. My aunt and uncle and their 4 sons, my 4 cousins came over, and they're all, college age boys. And so they were letting Leo run into pillows and pushing him around. And he just thought it was great because he's at that age where he really wants to like wrestle and tumble and do little boy things. So had a great time. Thanksgiving's always my favorite because there's so much food, and my favorite food that takes forever to cook, so you don't cook it all year because it's like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, it was very tiring for me. But this is like the, 3rd or 4th Thanksgiving that you didn't have to work? In the last couple of years, at least?
Yeah, in the last few years. I would say probably my 4th Thanksgiving. So at my previous job, Thanksgiving was the only holiday that I could get off. Thankfully, at this job that I'm in now, I can have all the holidays off that I want to, and that's encouraged. But it was really great us getting to spend that day together. Obviously, you work all day on Black Friday. So, really taking that time to enjoy, to be thankful for what we have, for our family, for our health, for, so many different things. And yes, I do love the food portion of Thanksgiving, but I also like getting to take that breath and just really enjoy the family and be present and spend that time together.
And I was grateful, too, that we didn't have to do any of that. Let's opening on Thanksgiving night and get going that we used to do over at GameStop. And I think for the comic shop many years ago, there was that one year where every store was like, we're opening up at 8 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, and that's our Black Friday. And thankfully, they've all kind of, for the most part, no longer done that because they realized that come midnight there was no one in the stores, and it was just that first couple of hours, so they were just using up that extra labor for nothing really. But Black Friday this year, and it sounds like overall everyone's been down compared to last year, and this year we too we didn't exceed last year's Black Friday, and that was a disappointment to me because I'm like, all right, so a year's worth of growth should equal to a better Black Friday than last year. But 2020 has been such a weird and exceptional year to anything at all that many businesses are no longer around because of because of the pandemic. And a lot of people are not spending money, and a lot of people they don't have jobs, so they don't have that money to go out Black Friday shopping. More people are shopping online this year as opposed to going to big box stores or local businesses, unfortunately. However, there were people that came out and specifically said, I could get this online, but I'd rather support local stores because of everything that's happened this year, and I know many local businesses are struggling. So that all being said, yes, we were down from last year's Black Friday, but it wasn't like a ghost town. It wasn't something like, oh shit, this was a terrible Black Friday. It was just, all right, we didn't exceed last year's, we didn't meet last year's, but given all the circumstances, 2020 is 2020.
I think for a lot of businesses too, and something that I actually really liked that came out of this year is Black Friday sales started the week of Thanksgiving. So you really had all week. You didn't necessarily need to go out and fight the crowds. You had plenty of days to really decide what you wanted to get instead of an impulse buy. Yes, places were still crowded, but there were enough pickup options and able to purchase online and still get the same deals. So for those things, I did really enjoy that those modifications were made. I hope that continues going forward. You and I have never been out Black Friday shopping. I hope to never go Black Friday shopping because fighting those crowds and going to get a few $100s off of an item just doesn't really sound appealing to me. But for these other ways that you can still get those things, I did take advantage for some.
I think the only Black Friday item I got, and I might have covered it last week, was the Need for Speed Remastered, which was $30 on Black Friday as opposed to the $50 or $60 that it debuted on, and it just came out less than a month ago. And Best Buy announced that it was going to be on sale, and thankfully both Scott and Bobby gave me the heads up of when it went on sale and that it was going on sale. So because of that, Leo has been enjoying watching me play. He likes the cars. He likes me to always choose the purple car.
Always.
So no matter what model. It's the only
color he can say.
Yeah, probably. It really is. So it's been fun the little bit that I can actually play it when I'm watching Leo, or Leo and I can sit down and he can watch the car game.
Yeah, you two have been having fun. It always cracks me up when he'll bring you the controller and say like baseball or car. Or he's getting to that age where he wants to sit and watch you play. And even if it's over 20 minutes, that's 20 more minutes you get in that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that was the item that you got. You did get me, and it was a Black Friday sale like the week earlier, but a Bluetooth speaker, which I'm very excited for. I've wanted one for forever. Something that I got that was not a Black Friday sale, but I'm excited that I finally got it. It was a little hashtag treat yourself for me, was my espresso machine that I've been talking about forever so I can make some actual espresso at home. Leo got to help me a little bit and he really enjoyed it. You're not sold yet, but I'm working on it. I'm going to find something that you like. I think what it is I'm using a different kind of bean than you're used to. It's a medium roast instead of a dark espresso roast. So it just doesn't taste quite as strong. I think that's what it is. I'm working on it. However, I also graduated college. I mean, there's that.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
No more school for you,
No
right?
more school ever. I had one professor who's like, I'll write you a letter for when you go get your master's. And I was like, no. Nope, I'm done. It was, it's still kind of surreal. I always expect there to be something else. I'm like, I'm just in the break between semesters, because it's really been 2.5 years of almost nonstop school. There haven't really been any breaks because of the way that my semesters work out. And so thank you to you for being so supportive and taking on some extra load while I try to, go through this extra 18 hours a week that was dumped on my plate to try and get through school. But it's done. It's over. Woof, finally.
What are you going to do with the extra time?
I have no idea. I cleaned my car the other day. Leo was down for a nap and I'm like, let me do home. Oh, wait, let me clean my car. So I vacuumed out the whole thing. It looks fantastic. I cleaned the kitchen the other day. Don't get used to it. Soon I'm going to just start taking naps or something.
Probably.
Maybe I'll just relax. I've worked very hard to this point. I should be able to just relax.
Something else that I got to put up this week is what turned out to be the final Snyder Cut Roundtables video with guests Haruko Hitomi, Vega, and Kronos. Originally, this was going to release on the Release the Snyder Cut YouTube channel, and we had, we all had scheduled out our videos, and all right, this is when we're going to record and we're going to submit it. And by the time we had done our thing and I gave them the link, that's when they told us, hey, we're no longer doing videos. We're deactivating the account. And I was like, oh, and they said, yeah, we're going to release this last one, the one you submitted, and then that'll be it. And I said, all right, cool. And it had been about a month later, and we touched bases again with them, and we're like, should we release it on our own? I just feel bad for the guests who, they had been asking me too, like, hey, when's it going to release? And I didn't really have an answer for them. And the RT Snyder Cut account gave us the go-ahead of like, you guys can just release it on your own channels. We apologize. And it's like, oh, no, it's cool. So we got to put it out publicly. And it's about a month old now since we had recorded, and we had mainly covered the Ray Fisher stuff from that week, but it was still a fun thing to do to help highlight other members of the Snyder Cut movement and really talk about this stuff with other people that love it as much as I do.
That's amazing. I know you were very excited when you were chosen to do some of these and getting the opportunity to go through them. And I really hope, and if it's not, and I hope it's with the Snyder Cut, right? But if there's not any more of these, I hope you get another opportunity similar, because I know this is a field where you very much thrive.
I think this is the third one I've done for the Snyder Cut Roundtables. And yeah, it's not like an official one for this last one, but it was done with the intention of them releasing it on there. I will say the couple of comments that I've gotten have been very positive on I guess how they say I control the conversation and keep things moving. I don't know. I just feel like I'm podcasting in a way, or what we do every week. But people seem to enjoy that. And I've had some really, really kind compliments and comments throughout the last 3 that tell me like, all right, well, I guess I'm doing this right. So it's positive confirmation of, well, maybe I should keep doing some more of these video ones or other interviews that we can put up. Either for this channel or, for someone else's channel. But it was very encouraging. And I just want to say I do still feel very fortunate and very lucky that they reached out in the first place to do not just 3 of them, but even just 1. I felt very fortunate. I still do. It was a great journey. And I do deeply thank all the people behind the RT Snyder Cut account and everyone that came out and supported that channel and their Twitter, and it really helped push the movement to eventually release Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I think without RT Snyder Cut, I don't know if we would have had that.
That's amazing and so wonderful that you were able to be a part of that. You just need to make money doing podcasts. Like, just find a way.
Huge thanks to all the people that agreed to come on and be on the roundtables. They made it so much easier. They were all amazing guests, and I hope you all enjoy this third one too. We released the audio version this last week also, but if you want to see the video version, it is up on our YouTube channel. There's a link at thereasonsimbroke.com.
Beyond that, my week was pretty standard, right? Work is being work, and except I finished school. Leo is adorable. Oh, Leo update. He did get accepted into speech therapy finally. I think we've talked about that a little bit, so that'll be fantastic for him. We're looking at starting that probably at the beginning of the year, and just give him the opportunity to be around other kids and learn and say words that other people can understand, not just mom.
He does have his lingo, for sure.
He does. He'll do like little actions, and my parents are like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, he's talking about this Paw Patrol episode.
He'll give you a whole synopsis that only you understand.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great episode, Leo.
That was a big
spider. He did that. Did I tell you about that?
I was there for the Baymax thing, but no, I didn't tell me about the other.
So he has like this little puzzle where it has wooden animals and you got to put them in the right spot, and he was saying like the noises they all make, right? The lion was roaring and the zebra was anyway, he got to the hippo and I was like, what sound does the hippo make? And he starts shaking his little hands and like dancing side to side. And my parents are like, what? And he's like do do, and he kept doing it. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a Paw Patrol episode where you play the maracas and the hippos dance and they dance. And then he like was pointing to things and pretending they were falling over, exactly like happens in the episode.
That's
my parents
hilarious.
were just very confused. I'm like, no, he knows it's a hippo. Like, he recognizes what it is. So brilliant little boy. Yep. He just needs to start talking.
I think that about wraps up today's episode, though. Let us know, Brokehead Core. We've seen several of you already share on Discord and on Twitter what you got for Black Friday, but if you got any cool deals, make sure to send it over our way. Always curious to see what everyone else got. As we head into the end of the year, usually the news ends up getting a little bit slower, especially during the week of Christmas, so that we'll figure out something like always to
send in some questions.
Yeah, always. Speakpipe.com/thereasonsimbroke if you want to be heard on the episode, but otherwise via Twitter, Discord, any way that you can get the question out to us. And if you want to put like for the next episode or something to specify, that way I don't just answer it right away, or I might even include it in the episode as well. But submit them on this month especially, that way we can get a discussion going in future episodes. When we get to the week of Christmas, or maybe the week after, that's when we'll do our Wonder Woman 1984 review. We are going to try to see it on the big screen for sure. We love going into the theaters. We don't know what the state of that will be at that point. We're not going to guess anything. But as always, let us know if you ended up seeing Wonder Woman 84 when we get to that. But otherwise, I've been Glasses Daniel.
And I'm Emperor Palpa Kelli.
And Brokehead Core. All will be well.
I don't know what happened this last week, but did you know it's colder here in Florida than it is in New York right now?
I believe that because there have been periods in the past where it's hotter here than in Chicago and colder here than in Chicago. So, but it's very rare. Very rare.
And it's also very cold. I'm so cold. It was a high of 53 today.
I have not busted out the sweater. I'm still in a polo and shorts.
Because you try to prove a point every time it gets cold. You freeze.
Because I'm not a weather baby.
You freeze all night and complain about how cold it is all night. And then you wake up and you're a man and you don't need a coat.
Do you not like the cuddles at night?
I'm
do. Just being affectionate.
Is that what it is? You're not really cold. You're just being
right.
affectionate.
Yeah, I'm just showing my wife affection.
Moral of my story is it's very cold here in Florida, and I enjoy it. I do appreciate it, but I was not prepared for 50 degrees. Like 60 degrees, sure. 50, not ready.
I will admit, I do enjoy when a customer comes in all decked out in a trench coat and a winter hat, and they're just bundled up completely, and then I do one of these, little chilly there? The way I say that tells them like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be wearing this much.
Well, you also realize that we buy these things because we like them and we can only wear them one day a year. So yeah, you're going to break it out
That's
and
every
sweat in
Floridian's
them.
excuse.
That is the truth.
The walk to your car from your job or your store does not warrant those giant things. Now, if you work outside or you're going to the parks, yes, I can totally agree. Wear your sweaters, wear your jeans, but if you're driving to the store, you don't need to have your parka on.
Do I or do I not look cute in my boots and my sweater and my jacket?
Yeah, but you'll wear sweaters even when it's not really that cold out, so I'm kind of used to it already. At least you don't have a giant fucking parka with a giant hoodie and gloves. I've seen fingerless gloves, which is weird to me because it doesn't, even up north, we don't wear fingerless gloves because it doesn't do anything.
They're trying to be Ash Ketchum.
I guess so. I don't know.
Just let people live their life, okay? It's cold in Florida right now. I'm cold. My boss, who's from New York, was cold today. That's how I justify it.
That's how you should justify it. Yeah. Now, with friend, if you don't want me, I won't call you a weather baby because I'm just used to it at this point. But
no,
anyone else,
no, because you respect your wife and don't want to call her names, not because you're used to it.
That as well. But to anyone else, the barometer is up to what I'm wearing. If I wear a sweater, then I will not call you a weather baby if you wear a sweater. But if it's more covered up than what I have, weather baby weather.
That is not accurate because, again, you don't wear these things to prove a point.
You are inferring this out of nowhere. How do you know that I'm not wearing it to prove a point?
Because you do this.
I don't go to work. I don't drive to work and go, man, I really wish I had my sweater. No, because I'm in my fucking car. The wind chill's a non-thing.
Okay, we can just agree that I'm right and just move forward.